On March 11th, a Thai-registered bulk carrier called the Mayuri Nuri departed from the United Arab Emirates. Shortly after, it was struck and left engulfed in flames. Soon, a Japanese container ship, the One Majesty, suffered a similar hit. Both vessels were struck by what authorities described as unknown aerial projectiles. The damage to the Mayuri Nuri was severe enough that the Omani Navy had to immediately evacuate 20 crew members, leaving only a skeleton crew behind to wait for rescue. These attacks marked a deliberate escalation by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a powerful paramilitary organization that essentially acts as a second military for the Iranian regime. By targeting commercial shipping, the Iranian military is actively trying to force the United States and Israel to halt their bombing campaigns on the mainland. They are attempting to hold the global economy hostage. This map shows the Strait of Hormuz, the waterway where these attacks took place. At its narrowest point, the strait is 21 miles wide, but the navigable waters are divided roughly into a pair of 2-mile-wide shipping lanes separated by a 2-mile buffer, narrowing the actual choke point down to a highly congested 6 miles. Through that tiny 6-mile window, roughly 17 million barrels of oil transit every single day. That accounts for 20 to 30% of the entire world's daily oil consumption. Iranian military spokespeople have openly threatened to make this lane impassable. Their stated goal is to choke off the supply and drive the price of oil up to $200 a barrel, knowing the resulting economic shock would force immediate peace negotiations. Because the regime lacks a mature nuclear arsenal, leveraging this massive geographic bottleneck to dictate global energy prices is the country's true strategic weapon. American leadership had anticipated this choke point strategy. U.S. President Donald Trump issued a strict ultimatum to Iran's regime, warning that any attempt to lay naval mines in the strait would result in severe military consequences. The regime ignored the warning. While they held back on deploying naval mines, they struck commercial shipping anyway, relying on aerial projectiles like their Shahed explosive drones to attack the carriers. Within minutes of the deadline passing, the United States retaliated. U.S. Central Command initiated a wave of strikes that completely destroyed 16 of Iran's inactive mine lane boats before they could even deploy into the strait. The counterattack expanded rapidly over the next few hours. Sweeping strike waves targeted multiple locations, specifically hunting down and eliminating the last 4 Shahed Soleimani-class corvettes in the Iranian fleet. By removing entire classes of warships from the map in a single day, the U.S. effectively dismantled the regime's conventional maritime strength. This rapid dismantling was part of a larger, ongoing campaign called Operation Epic Fury. Since late February, the United States claims to have struck over 5,500 individual targets across Iran. Hitting that many targets averages out to roughly 500 strikes per day. Executing this volume of attacks relies heavily on finite standoff weapons like Tomahawks, long-range cruise missiles that the U.S. simply does not have enough of to fire indefinitely. To maintain this relentless operational tempo, the U.S. military is shifting towards sustainable, precision-guided bombs dropped from aircraft to continue targeting underground bunkers and military nodes. With their large warships sitting at the bottom of the ocean, the Iranian regime has pivoted its tactics. They are now deploying swarms of cheap, uncrewed fast attack boats packed with explosives. These remote-controlled vessels are difficult to track and highly effective. In mid-March, unknown projectiles struck 2 more ships off the coast of Iraq in the dead of night, including the Safisi Vishnu, proving the fast boat threat is keeping commercial shipping volumes dangerously low. The initial exchange of heavy naval firepower is over. The conflict is now a grinding test of endurance, pitting expensive American-guided munitions against highly expendable, remote-controlled explosives. To protect the commercial ships trying to transit the strait, the U.S. has to stop these explosive speedboats and drones before they get close. Their solution is to establish absolute air dominance over the water. This requires pulling advanced aircraft away from mainland bombing runs and redirecting them to the coast. The military is running constant surveillance and strike sorties using highly advanced stealth platforms like the F-22. Alongside them, multi-role fighters like the F-35 and F-16 are tasked with actively escorting tankers and shooting down cheap aerial and seaborne targets the moment they launch. Operating 5th-generation fighters and firing advanced air-to-air missiles to destroy low-cost disposable hardware is incredibly expensive. It creates an economic imbalance that the United States cannot maintain alone. Relief for the stretched American forces is arriving. The French government, led by President Emmanuel Macron, recently announced plans to deploy an expansive fleet of Allied warships to the Middle East to help reopen the shipping lanes. This deployment brings immense reinforcements, including 2 helicopter carriers, 8 frigates, and France's flagship aircraft carrier, the Charles de Gaulle. By integrating with American forces, these Allied warships can actively escort commercial vessels through the choke point. They provide a massive screen of electronic warfare and advanced weaponry, capable of jamming or destroying the remote-controlled fastboats. With the swarms neutralized by the combined fleet, the Iranian regime can no longer guarantee hits on commercial targets. This effectively breaks their ability to hold the global oil supply hostage. This strategic failure has a direct impact on Moscow. Vladimir Putin relies on the Iranian regime as his primary regional partner and a key supplier of hardware. If the regime loses its ability to exert pressure in the Middle East, Putin loses the strategic foothold that anchors his own ambitions in the region. By securing this 6-mile stretch of water, the global coalition isn't just protecting trade. They are stripping away the regime's last major piece of strategic leverage, leaving the Iranian command with no way to dictate the terms of its survival.